Every fast FPS game will inevitably be labeled either a Doom clone or Titanfall inspired. Got a wall run? That's Titanfall. Weapon chaining? That's Doom. Boxy graphics and open space? That's no video game. That's my last car. I've already talked about all the big multiplayer ones, but there's still a ton of smaller single-player games I'd be doing a disservice to not talk about. That and people keep recommending me games I've already played, so this is a good way to dispel that. The first game of the video is... what was it called? It was something like really subdued. Yeah, that. Megadeth is in its own pedigree of design. It's faster than Doom, more vertical than Quake. When you die, the first thing it does is laugh at you. It's not funny. There's a gun, right, where you flip a coin and shoot it, and it fucking ricochets towards an enemy. You can flip that same coin, switch to the rail cannon, and then combo them together. This game is all style, all substance. It's got slide hopping, ground pounding, a literal style meter. Go look up devilmayquake.com and tell me where it leads you. I remember playing the first demo where within 5 levels, I knew this would be a masterpiece. Oh, hello, boss room. Where's the boss? Can anyone see it? I'll let you in on a secret, summer child. The stage prop is the boss! Oh, did I mention there's 2 of them now? Wait till you see the second phase. When you first encounter a new enemy, they're the hardest thing in the goddamn world, but then 2 levels later, you meet the harderest thing, and suddenly that boss before seems like a warm-up. Some enemies are bullet fodder, but then there's street cleaners who spot dodge your attacks, drones who kamikaze themselves. One boss might chase you down in close quarters, while another is so big all it can do is throw long, slow punches. This continuous ramp-up is so masterfully weaved that you never once feel like it's padding for time. They'll introduce a concept, play with it a bit, and then subvert their own concept. You start finding skulls which open doors, right? And eventually you need 3 different blue skulls to open this particularly big door. But I can't find the 3rd one anywhere. This is how you actually get inside. I'm so cool! That's not impressive. You know, you just made a mess. It also has my favorite boss fight trope. I'm you, but stronger! V2 is funkin' insane. It's a madman. It moves and shoots like a real player, and the reward for beating it is you take its goddamn arm. Every time you think a baseline's been established, it throws a new toy at you to learn. That's on top of all the level mechanics Hakita introduces to make each one feel distinct from each other. It's the kind of game you go back and replay just to find all the secret crevices you were too overwhelmed to see before. Found it. 1 down. 2 out of 3. 1 more. Number 3, water control. Got. A waterfall is down. Let's see what's behind it. A secret level, perhaps? If you haven't played Ultrakill yet, play it. Then play it again, then play it again. Notice how hilariously overpowered you are compared to when you started. I don't want to yell. Mankind is dead, blood is fuel, grass grows, birds fly, and brother, I give Ultrakill 1 Pinkerton out of a blue. Where I come from, that's an 11 out of 10. But if you want speed, pure speed, the game that you want to play is... Gotta grab my gun. Gotta grab my gun. Get in line. I've been following Get to the Orange Door's development for about 2 years, and it's crazy to see how much Andrews fleshed out its visual identity, tweaked its level design, tightened up its movement. This game has slowly come into its own as this ridiculously mobile FPS roguelike. Oh, that's a bingo. Every movement ability complements each other. If you get good enough at it, levels become this playground for chaining slide hops and wall runs into each other. It's like freebasing the Titanfall 2 gauntlet fresh off of a Risk of Rain 2 bender. I don't want to understate how conceptually cool this game is. Everything about it sings to me in a way very few things ever have. It's fast, it's fun, I respect Andrew, but goddamn does this game not have enough enemy types, enough level objectives. There is virtually nothing to do in stages besides the exit door event, which in itself is just shooting enemies till the door opens. Here's a few free ideas. Cover the level in obelisks the player has to go activate to make the door open. Have an exit event that requires the player to go scavenger hunt for door parts to gather and assemble it themselves. Funk you, I like the Knuckles stages. With a little elbow grease, you could probably make a lot of different exit door events that cycle randomly every time you loop a level. It would add a lot of replayability and incentivize players to run around the stages more intently. For combat, I'd love to see more airborne or even wall-running enemies that can keep up with the player's top speed. The game getting a speed boost is a welcome addition, but goddamn do these Halo 2 grunts give me whiplash standing there menacingly. The game nails all of its fundamentals, so it really comes down to just getting more meat on its bones. It's only got 1 boss, and after 2 loops, that becomes more of a road bump. I recommend recommend this game with a citation that until it's more developed, you're mostly getting a reputable IOU in place of where an actual gameplay loop should be. No clue what to rate it. I rate it half Maladroit, half Rock and Roll Part 3. Good luck deciphering that. The next game is a bit more fringe, and so by extension, really deserves a spotlight to be seen by more people. I found this demo for a game called Enchain, best described as a Souls-like platformer. Your lamp functions as a grapple, but can only attach to wood surfaces. There's wall running and diving, which all add up into this bouncy, slippery platformer. But I haven't even mentioned the best part yet. You can chain grab enemies and shake them down for ammo. If you hold them into a dive, they become your skateboard. The Souls-like part of it seems to be the lamplight bonfires and one-way doors you eventually open to create shortcuts to and from your spawn point. Put simply, the game is non-linear. Any direction you move in will eventually circle back towards progress. I'm ridiculously excited to play the full game when it's out. As it stands, the demo's pretty short, so I'm holding my rating until then. In the meantime, if you want another Souls-like platformer, I would recommend Blue Fire. I won't talk about it here, but so far this genre is 2 for 2 on impressing me. Enchain is shaping up to be my favorite, so keep an eye on it. The cardinal rule of movement shooters is that projectile weapons are always more fun than hit scan. Now, imagine Super Hot was vertical with a teleport, and that's basically Boomerang X. At first the environments are small to warm you up, but then they open up. You're in a forest, in a sewer. They test you more and more with increasingly harder enemies to hit. You can teleport to your boomerang, which makes juggling above dangerous pits tricky. Slowly they introduce complementary mechanics to make clearing the waves easier. There's also a giant worm named Teppan. I like Teppan. My only complaint about this game is that it's too short, like 3 hours short. Even with that time frame, they managed to cram in all this content. They somehow fleshed out an idea while still only scratching the surface of what could be done with it. Some levels are super vertical, some enemies have sweet spots that they try to hide from you. The final boss of this game was really good, but it also conceivably could have just been the first of several. I'm hoping they release some more content down the line because I could easily clock in a dozen more hours. I don't know what else to say. This game's fun. White Album. I know I'm kind of stretching the definition of a shooter by mentioning a melee-based parkour game, but in my video, me go fast, me say word. Clearing a level using just your sword and 2 feet is pretty novel. There's the obviously intended ways the game wants you to kill things, but if you're clever, you can come up with more efficient routes to accomplish the same goal. The whole game is an adventure of this sort of problem solving. Mobility is super high, but there's also limitations that funnel you towards particular objectives or enemies. At its best, there's a combination of evading death while moving towards the end of the level, but at its worst, you're standing still solving logic puzzles that very clearly only exist because someone took the soft verse loud chorus rule a little too seriously in music theory. There's a system for sorting your upgrades like a Resident Evil inventory, which puts this interesting limitation on what you can use at any time. I didn't find myself touching it much after I found the ones I liked, that's what she said, which I don't mind since it meant I could run through the levels uninterrupted. It's the kind of game where they try pretty hard to convince you the bigger plot is important and interesting while being totally aware nobody cares and I just want to run around slicing shit. What you end up getting is a comedically railroaded generic sci-fi story about morality and picking sides, which you don't actually get to pick a side on, and then the setup for a sequel that I'll definitely play but have zero emotional stakes in. You will die a lot in this game, and it will be very annoying, but the dopamine of clearing a room will keep you from dropping it. We'll call it half ratitude, half okay human. It's radical but a little pretentious.
Clearing every room until I see the end. They call me the beat of Valhalla. Met your mama till she hollered from my BPM.
In a way, rhythm games are kind of like movement games, especially when the game involves moving really fast. The idea of having to shoot and dodge on beat to the soundtrack forms a cool habit. Each fight makes your brain think like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, click, clack, You can only have one item in each slot, which means you have to make a certain decision, like whether you prefer infinite jumps or projectile-based shots. As if it's even a contest. Certain weapons have funky reloads that end up being really tricky to fit onto the rhythm. 4 shots, 4 cocks, 3 reload beats. Excuse my math, but that doesn't sound divisible by 4. Thought this game was metal, not jazz. The soundtrack hits every note and weaves between build-up... Hold on, I gotta reload. And... done. Payoff so well that I never got tired listening to it. Once you get a feel for this game, it becomes addictive. For such a conventional roguelike, this rhythm element really fits in and gives the game a unique identity. Dodging bullet hell on low health while also staying on beat is way more stressful than doing it indiscriminately. This game funkin' slaps. Everything will be alright. Easy. Don't read the video comments. This album is good. So I said I wouldn't talk about Dusk, but I finished this video and still felt like it was missing something. Quake-likes tend to get grandfathered into the movement shooter genre. They're fast, but not necessarily designed around intricate platforming or dashy wall-running combat. Likewise, Dusk rides this line between a horizontal speed shooter and vertical clay pigeon shooting range, all depending on where you're at. The most free-range levels can become claustrophobic in a matter of minutes. Some levels involve platforming, while some are all combat. One level, you walk outside and there's a goddamn hurricane barreling towards you. How long you stay in these levels comes down to how fast you can clear it. Bunny hopping is ingrained, and at regular intervals it introduces wall climbing, bounce pads. The level Homecoming is so mind-bending, I don't even want to explain it to you. You'd have more fun just playing it. On your first life, it's hard to tell where to go, so when you inevitably die halfway through a level, you'll end up having to speed run back to where you were from the start. This means in the beginning, you might tiptoe around, but by the end, you're freaking zipping through it with no regard for the enemies in your path. The enemy types are pretty diverse too. There's an alligator boss who has a sungulator fight, flaming sword knights, Big John, and what I think is a quadriplegic capybara. Dusk isn't super flashy or quirky. It's not trying to butt chug your adrenaline with relentless subversion, but it's well paced, an evolution of boomer shooter that builds on the formula without abandoning the principles that made it work in the first place. Game is good, white with a pinch of blue. Now stop recommending it to me. Justin's calling to keep on dropping knowledge on me. It's fuck study. Justin's coming to me.